I live in a house right now that I spent $900,000 on. So most people, if they say like, "Oh, here's this house and it's 900 grand," they would say, "I can't afford it." Sort of the
Right,
next step is, how can I afford it?
right.
And the step that I got into is, how can this make me money? It happens to be a duplex. I rented out the other half. I converted one of the garage spaces into a studio. I put those on Airbnb. And not
Mm,
only was the monthly mortgage for me completely paid for every month, I was making around, I think, $2,000 a month in cash flow on the house that I lived in. I lived for $0 a month in this $900,000 house. And today, the house is worth $1.4 million. What's up, peeps? This is Todd, and welcome back to my show. I have an awesome guest today, a man named Ludovic, and this guy has an awesome story because he is going to make over $1 million this year, and I wanted to get him on the show and basically find out how he did it and how you guys can do it too. So welcome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, Todd, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done a couple of collaborations with your brother. If anyone saw back in the day, I had a guy named Jan Winat on here, I think 2 times actually. And so this is his brother, 2 guys just killing it in the Washington State area. I assume most of that money that you're making is coming through real estate, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So tell the people what you're all about.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Todd. So first off, I want to give a little story because I think I love sharing stories. I had a pretty tough past. My parents both immigrated here from Poland. We grew up in a pretty poor family. I just remember my first business that I started. I was 7 years old, and I was working at my elementary school selling candy to kids with my brother. I actually learned it from my brother, and we would sell jawbreakers. We would sell all types of candy. We were making probably about $10, $15 a week. So that was my first business that I started. And then at that time, I remember my dad actually left us, and it was just my mom taking care of us. And I know you have a very similar story, Todd. And so it was really, really tough for those, I would say 15, 20 years. My mom was extremely poor. I remember at one time we had like 6 people living in my house in an 800 square foot apartment. And I just knew that something had to change. There had to be something that had to change in my life. Growing up with just my mom, and my mom was struggling day to day. She was working so hard for her money, and she was making like $30,000 a year. And that I just realized that at that point, in some of your content, some of your videos do a really good job talking about this. It's not about working hard for your money. It's about working for value. What value can I bring to the table, and not working to give up your time, right? So I realized that, I think at the age of 15, that I had to find something that brought others, basically value. Like what areas in my life can I bring value to other people's lives? And so I remember at that point, I was really good at sales because I sold candy when I was 7 years old. I stepped into selling cars at that age. So I would sell Hondas, BMWs when I was 15, 16 years old. And I would make about $3,000 profit per vehicle because I had a goal in mind at that time. I wanted to give my mom money to go to Poland because she never got an opportunity to leave America to go to Poland. And so I saved up enough money from those cars. I sent her to Poland, and I did so for like 3 or 4 years straight. So from selling vehicles, I remember getting into flooring. I started flooring when I was 18 years old. That was my 3rd business that I started. And it was incredible. But again, I went back to that mindset of working hard for my money. And I worked 14-hour days, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And I realized, again, I had to figure something else out. And that was leveraging my resources. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned when I was 18 years old is there's no way I'm going to earn $1 million a year unless I leverage something. So either I'm going to leverage other people, I'm going to leverage technology, I'm going to leverage, there's got to be something that I leverage in order to get me to that point. And so I think I was 18 at that time when I really stepped into learning a little bit about real estate. And at that time as well, I joined Amazon. uh, uh, a little bit after I graduated college, of course. So I think I was like 23, 24 at that time when I finally got to know a little bit more about real estate. My brother and I purchased a home, a single family home in Tacoma for like 3.5% down because that's all we had. And I started working at Amazon, but again, I wasn't leveraging myself, my resources, and so I was just burning myself out. So I think at that age, I think I was a 1 year, year and a half into Amazon. I remember the last day before I quit the job. I was super like mentally, I wasn't doing very well. I remember wanting to drive off the road, and I told myself that would be the last day I worked for anybody else. And I really had to step into figuring out what resources I will leverage so that I can achieve my dream of providing for my mom, providing for my family, and providing for myself. So I quit the job at Amazon, and going from cars, I went into wholesaling. And now we started a business about maybe, I think it was 14 months ago. And we're on track right now. We're about to make $1 million wholesaling. So I'm super excited to talk with you about that and what that process looks like. But going from, I think, learning from all these different businesses, learning from all the failures, learning from all the experiences has really got me into this position where now I know it's really all about leveraging my resources in order to achieve my goals and successes in life.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Thank you for sharing your story. When in talking with your brother, I know you come from a tough background, and I see a lot of parallels between your story and my story. Right down to the T, really. I also sold candy in school. I started a candy business with my brother, and it was the same sort of deal where it was like, what can I do to make more than the minimum wage or whatever I could get working a job for somebody else? And for me, it was always starting businesses. And, I want to talk more about how you made that jump, because I agree with you. I mean, working hard got you to six figures. I imagine you were making six figures at Amazon. Working hard got me to six figures, but it was working smart and leveraging that got me to seven figures. But what's something that, just because you struggled and I struggled, what is something that rich people get wrong about poor people, or people who are born into wealth that don't know your struggle, don't know my struggle? What's something that they get wrong about how you were brought up and how hard it was for your mom?
So what's something that rich people get wrong? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of stuff that poor people get wrong about rich people. Like if someone didn't know your story, they just saw your success today, a lot of people would say you're evil and greedy. I have the most comment I get is that I'm evil and greedy. Yeah. And I grew up in poverty, and I wanted to be successful and take care of my family. Hardly evil, but they get it wrong. But also, there are a lot of people who were born into wealth that say, oh, well, poor people are just lazy, or that, they did that because of bad decisions. And your mom was hardly lazy. She worked a lot, but she had a guy who abandoned her, and, she did what she could with the resources and the knowledge she had. So what's something that you think that people who were just born rich don't really understand about the way you were brought up?
So I really think that, just seeing from my mom's experience, and it's like, she knew what she didn't have is education. I think it's like very specific education. And she knew that she can offer that to us it was amazing. Like every morning, every afternoon when we came back from school, we would have dinner at the table, like as a family. And she would show us like how bad she was struggling. She would talk about it. And she's like, the one thing that I want for you boys is to get the proper education, because I didn't get the proper education. And this is why we are where we are. And I really I believe that because of that, and not only just like school education. I think school education is the starting point to my wealth, like to my story. But I think is continuous education when you graduate. So that, she taught me that it's so important. It's invaluable. It's priceless how important it is to get a college degree, because then I can actually stop living so hard. Like I can actually broaden my mind, broaden my thought process, but continuing to educate myself after that linking up with the right people, because when we were super young, I remember my brothers and we were getting into bad habits. We were drinking, doing drugs. And I knew that I had to be centered around the right people. And so I think the biggest thing for me was just being involved, like being around the right people, as I was growing up and as I was like learning these new skills and everything else. I think I just spend a lot of time with again, with people now that are now like not doing so well in life. But now like my friend group is way different than it was when I was in high school. And I think just being around people that I want to become has really helped me to get to where I want to go. So like now some of the people I hang out with, Augustus, both of my coaches, Mike and Cole Johnson, they're both doing extremely well in wholesaling. Like learning from the people that I want to become has really helped me to be the person I am today.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's so awesome. And no, I agree completely. And I think that my journey has been similar, where it's like, okay, let's go find people who are doing what I want to do.
Right.
And let's emulate that. And it's really like, when it comes down to it, it's not that difficult. Like if you're in bad shape and you want to get in good shape, well, just go look at people who are fit and do what they
Right.
do. And if you're struggling financially, well, look at people who are successful and go emulate that. So no, I agree 100%. So yeah, okay. So you have this humble beginning and times are tough and things are hard. And this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is this going to be the first year where like in a year you make seven figures? I imagine you've already gotten like net worth wise, but like you're actually going to make $1 million this year.
Yes. Yeah. And I looked at the finances actually yesterday just to like confirm that we're actually going to make, because it's myself and my business partner actually. So, we've been doing the wholesale thing for like 14 months. And yes, this year I'm going to make or earn $1 million from wholesaling and from the investments that I purchased as well. But it's been an incredible journey. And I really think it really started with my change in language. I think a lot of times it's really interesting how our environment, I catch myself quite a bit on this as well. In the past I've done is I say words like, it's too expensive. I can't do that. So what I used to do is I used to live in a very limiting belief where I can't do something. And now after reading Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, which is an incredible book I encourage everyone to read, I really start thinking of things that are limitless. How can I do this? How can I get to this point? How can I do a full remodel of my house and save $150,000 like I just did? We just bought a house actually, and as well this year, and I'm almost done with a full remodel of the house, and I saved like $150,000 because I stepped into something I didn't know much about. I did a full remodel watching YouTube videos, and I earned myself another $150,000 in equity this year just from that remodel. So it's like,
it's amazing.
I think just really being careful with our language on a day-to-day basis it will help really get you to that point. And that's what got me to $1 million. One of the things that got me to $1 million.
No, that's awesome. I agree with you. I think the words become flesh. And if you say, oh, I can't afford it, I can't do it, they're just lucky, it'll never happen for me. I do think that does something to you, where if you're instead, you're optimistic and you're open-minded. I started looking at things where, so I live in a house right now that I spent $900,000 on back in August of 2019. And so most people, if they say like, oh, here's this house and it's 900 grand, they would say, I can't afford it. Sort of the next step is, how can I afford it?
Right.
And the step that I got into is, how can this make me money? Mm-hmm. So I bought this house in August of 2019 for $900,000. It happens to be a duplex. I rented out the other half. I converted one of the garage spaces into a studio. I put those on Airbnb. And not only was the monthly mortgage for me completely paid for every month, I was making around, I think, $2,000 a month in cash flow on the house that I lived in. And when the pandemic hit, I took them off Airbnb and leased them out full time. So I'm still living for free. I'm no longer making the $2,000 in excess, but I live for $0 a month. in this $900,000 house. And today the house is worth $1.4 million. So
Incredible.
it's just, if I had the mindset of like, oh, 900, I can't afford that. I wouldn't have made, first of all, the $500,000 in appreciation, and I wouldn't be living for free, because in my own world, in some weird way, it would have been more expensive for me to go buy like a basic $250,000 house, because I wouldn't have been living for free. I wouldn't have had the cash flow, and it wouldn't have had that massive appreciation. So it is just changing the way you think about some things. Of course, I recognize I was in a privileged position to be able to buy a 900K house in the first place, but I didn't start there. I got there same way you did, by working crazy hours and doing crazy things. And then eventually I learned that leveraging real estate and employees and investments is such a better way than just, there's only 24 hours in a day. You can't work all of them. And eventually you're going to get gassed out.
Exactly. And with leveraging employees, I think it's so important, because the thing that people don't understand is like you're creating opportunities as well by building a business. Like we've created opportunities for like 11 people this year alone. And we look forward to creating more opportunities for people that don't have jobs right now for another 10 to 15 on a yearly basis. Like that's our goal. So it's like, when people get upset about how well we're doing, well, we're creating opportunities and we're providing safe, affordable housing options for people in our communities. I don't think they just understand the full story. And I think that's where there's a big disconnect.
Yeah, absolutely. What's funny is right now there is a labor shortage. I actually just went to my favorite pizza spot yesterday, and there's a sign on the door saying like, hey, we're temporarily closed due to a staffing shortage. No one wants to come to work. And I felt bad for the business, but also just being completely blunt, I run a business and I am not experiencing a labor shortage. It's because I pay my workers very well, and I let them choose their own hours, and I treat them with respect. And man, if there's a business out there that they're not able to attract talent, it might be because the working conditions are bad, or the pay isn't good, or the benefits aren't great, or whatever. And it's like, man, the reason why your business is exploding is because you're empowering your people that work for you. And same thing with me, like I have a few workers, and I treat them all graciously. I pay them well. They choose when they want to work, and my business has exploded this year. So it behooves you to be a nice person and a good boss, because when you do those things, your business grows.
Exactly. And one of the things that we do at our business as well, we started this up a few months ago, is just evaluating, like on a weekly basis, like really stepping in. Monday morning. So now we meet together, me and my disposition team, and we talk about what's working right now, what isn't working, what can we improve on, what do we need to do less of, and I listen. That's one thing they didn't do good for me at Amazon. Is in big corporate settings, there's just too many people moving around, and I think there needs to be more listening instead of more talking, and that's what we do on a weekly basis, because we know that our business, there's things that we can improve on, and if we're not listening and we're not engaging into our employee needs, then there's no way we're going to grow as a business, and we're going to lose the trust of our employees.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think you hit it right on the head. So let's transition to so you're going to make $1 million this year. Congratulations, by the way. Like the first year that you make $1 million is such a huge milestone. And for anyone listening out there, the first million is for sure the hardest. Like once you make $1 million, then it's a lot easier to make the second one and the third one. And actually, I would say the same thing with $100,000. Like it took me a while to make $100,000 in a year. And it was much quicker to make like 200 and then 300 and 400. And now I'm going to make, I think I'll net this year, like right around 1.4 million after all expenses and stuff. And it does get easier. But in your experience, what would you say to people who want to make 7 figures a year, but don't think it's possible for them, or they think, they can't do it for whatever reason? Do you have any words of wisdom for those folks?
Yeah, that's really great. I think the biggest thing for me was relationships. Number one is just understanding that someone else is making $1 million a year, who are those people? Like, and how do I connect with them? So that's what I actually started doing first. Is before I made the $1 million, I realized, okay, there are other people all around me. I see them online. I see you, I've been watching your content as well. I learned a lot from your content.
Oh,
But there's so many incredible people earning $1 million a year. Who can I connect with? And how, number one is, how can I bring them value? Don't think about yourself first, is think about that person, is how can I bring this person value for them to teach me in return how they earned $1 million. And I think I did that very well. So I stepped into that with the first person, Augustus. He's a lender out of Seattle, and he's an incredible human being. And I met him, I think 5 years ago. We did our first loan with him in like 2016 or 2017. And I was bringing him consistent business. And when I would bring him business, I would also ask him for, 15 to 30 minutes of his time, and he would give it to me because I brought him consistent business. And I leveraged that relationship. I leveraged his skills, his experience to earn me $1 million. It wasn't like it took me 5-6 years to get to this point, because it took a lot of time, learning from these experienced people, all the leverage points that I had to step into. But number one for me was relationships. Is who can I bring the most value to right now, today, in order to get me to that point? And after Augustus, I met a couple guys in the wholesale business, Mike, Gary, and Cole Johnson, incredible guys. And we met together in person. It was probably about a year and a half ago. And they said, hey, and I knew at that point, a year and a half ago, these guys were making millions. They're making like $3 to $5 million a year. Cole Johnson, he's out of Seattle as well. He's like 22 years old, incredible guy. And he's like, hey guys, I'm willing to spend some time with you. I'm willing to give you 10 hours of my time. I'm going to need $25,000. And so that was all the money I had. I've been saving for a while. That's all the money I have. I put all my money to real estate. So I said, okay, I went on it. I gave him the $25,000, and he helped us put processes into this wholesale business that shaped the next 12 months of our lives, that helped us achieve this goal of $2 million in revenue, which we will earn very shortly, because of the systems that we learned from that relationship that we leverage. So I think number one is leverage relationships and figure out who you can help today to get you to where you want to go. And that's exactly what I did. And that's the number one step.
I think that's brilliant. And I love the idea of basically providing value first, because these folks who are making 7 figures a year, or some of them 8 figures a year, they're most probably, I will, for me, for sure, my most valued asset to me is my time. And so when I have people that message me on Instagram and they're like, hey, I see you make a lot of money. I want to learn how to too. Can we go grab coffee? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be an asshole, and I want to help them as much as I can, but it's just not a good use of my time. Like it's, right. I put on my channel the other day, and you're way more experienced than I am because this is your business is wholesaling. But I did a wholesale deal not that long ago. It literally took me 4 hours, and I made 50 grand.
I saw that.
Like I would not spend an hour getting coffee with someone when I can instead go do something that's going to make me 50 grand, right? Like, and the people that want to go do, and it's, again, I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just like, it's much more, I would be much more responsive if someone said, hey, what do you need in your business? Mm-hmm. Like, or hey, I can do these three things. I can do YouTube editing, or, whatever it is. I can cold call for you. I can do these things. Could I do this for you? And then could you teach me something I would be way more receptive to that than just like, oh, let's go meet up and tell me how you did it. So I think that's brilliant, is just giving someone free value in exchange for learning. I think it's brilliant.
100%. And also I think there's like a with the earning $1 million, I think you have to really understand from a logical standpoint, there's like a logical and emotional standpoint is like how many deals, like your deal, right? And I watched that video, by the way, congrats. That's
Thank
incredible
you.
in 4 hours. It is possible because I am in wholesaling and we do this on a daily basis. But really understanding, from a logical standpoint, how many deals is it going to take me to earn $1 million a year? And that's exactly what I broke down. So I'm like, okay, so I know that since I have a business partner, I need to earn $2 million. And on average, we're doing about $40,000 a deal. We need to, so if I'm averaging $40,000 a deal, then I need to do 50 deals per year to earn $2 million in revenue. And then I broke it down even further. Like how many calls, how many voicemail drops, how many ads do we need to post on a weekly basis to get one deal a week? And so we figured, okay, it's going to be 25,000 touch points. So we do 5,000 touch points per day. Right now, as we're speaking, we're getting calls from our Filipino team that we built out. We're getting all these voicemail drops. We have marketing dollars in advertisement going as we speak. I'm leveraging all these amazing things, all these tools that we built. And I know for a fact that today or tomorrow or Wednesday or one of these days, we're going to get a deal and we're going to close on that deal and we're going to average about $40,000. So I start from the top, and from a logical standpoint, I know exactly I need to do one deal a week. And that's exactly what we've done. And we measure that on a weekly basis and we stick to that. And I think a lot of people that are struggling to earn this type of wealth is they don't have a system in place. They don't, it's so important to have a system and to follow it consistently on a daily basis and actually look at it, physically look at, okay, where am I? How am I going to keep improving and stepping into that? And I think if as soon as we step into that, and as soon as we are consistent with our systems, is when we start seeing massive success.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. I think the question is like, do your habits today, are they going to get you to your goal? Because that's what it takes. It takes daily habits. And I think it's brilliant to set up systems. You mentioned, so you have like a call center in the Philippines. Is that what you were mentioning? I know a lot of people go that route for like virtual assistants and stuff because, man, like it's so cheap over there that someone can live on like not that much a day. So you could pay your virtual assistant like not very much for you, but to them it's a whole lot of money, and you can leverage that skill set. So I think finding systems, putting them in place, and I mean that's really what it is. Whatever goal you want. And by the way, I will say too, I love that you worked backwards. It's like, okay, so the goal is $2 million in revenue. So that's X amount of deals. Okay, to get X amount of deals, I need to have X amount of appointments. To schedule X amount of appointments, I got to make this amount of phone calls. Like that's just, and then you literally have metrics of what you have to do every single day. And of course it's working for you because you're going to reach your goal. So bravo. Right. That's brilliant.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool too, because we're seeing, and we look at like our competition. I don't think there is any competition. I live in an abundant mindset. I used to live in like a scarcity mindset. And I think that's also transition, is really understanding from an emotional standpoint, like it is possible. You just have to believe it. And it's like really changing your subconscious beliefs. And that took me many, many years of practice, but I've been listening to all these incredible podcasts. When I'm sleeping, I listen to like these meditations that I find on YouTube. Like all the information is there for us if we access it, but it's like really changing our subconscious beliefs and our thoughts. And then it really changes our daily habits. And I really think that like by doing so as well, because I really think the logical standpoint, it's only like 20% of the pie, but like the emotional standpoint is like 80%. It's like believing something that's not, it hasn't yet happened for me, but I know it's going to happen for me, and changing my language. And that's what I've done really well the last few years, is like changing my language to believe that I'm going to do this. And this is the year I'm going to do it, to make it happen. And then from there, it just happened. It happened so quickly. And yeah, I just love that it's possible if it's possible for me, for my, literally living with less than $30,000 a year, then it's possible for anyone, but it has to be a shift in the mindset, and anyone can start that today. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely. I mean, when I was, I think 12 years old, I think my mom was making like $10 an hour, like, and
uh,
raising three kids, right? And I don't quote me on that, but I think that's about what it wasn't much more than that, if anything. But and I agree too about the belief, and people are going to think it's something like clairvoyant or hocus pocus. That's not what it is. But if you don't believe in it, it won't happen. Like it here's a story too. So there's an actor and comedian that everybody here will know the name of and that I really like, and it's Jim Carrey.
mhm.
And before Jim Carrey was famous, he wrote a check to himself for $10 million for acting services rendered. And he was like, that was his goal, is to make $10 million. And Jim Carrey made $10 million off of the movie Dumb and Dumber. And it worked out. It manifested itself and worked out. Now it's not like you can just write it down and it'll happen. It'll drop out of the sky and just come to you. You have to put in the work and you have to, really own your craft. But if you don't believe that it's possible, like people ask me all the time, like, hey, did you ever think it was possible that you'd make over six figures a month running your own business? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because, I could do the more normal thing and say, oh, this is above my wildest dreams, but it's not true. I've been thinking about this since I was 15 years old. Like I had the dream of making over $1 million a year since I was, a young teenager.
Mhm.
And my goal was to make it by the time I was 30. And here I am, 29, and it's happening. So belief in
Incredible.
yourself is really important.
Yes, and I think for a lot of people too, because it's so fascinating. I had this experience. So basically, with our disposition, because I'm running disposition. I have a business partner. He runs acquisition and wholesaling, and it's incredible. I've sent out 100,000 emails this year. And out of those 100,000 emails, 66,000 of them have never even been opened. So we had 33,000 opened emails. And this is for my buyers in Washington State, by the way. This is deals I'm sending physically to buyers in Washington to buy these incredible deals that everyone has access to. So 33,000 people opened the emails. And out of 33,000 people that opened the emails, only 1,000 people responded. So 1,000 people responded. That's like, what was that? 1%. 1% responded, and only 10 people out of those 1,000 ever purchased one of my deals. So I think one of the things that I realized from that experience is like, wait, like it's about action. It's just about stepping in, even if the deal isn't the best, or whatever you're working on isn't. Maybe it's not the most perfect process or perfect system that you have in place. It's just about stepping in and taking action. And I think that's what is limiting to people. They don't step in. And a lot of it is because they have fear. Then you have to think to yourself, well, what do I fear? For me, it was rejection. Well, why do I fear rejection? It's like, because I'm not experienced. So it's like really asking yourself the questions. Why haven't I taken the action to step into starting a business? What can I do today to get me to where I want to go? And I think if the more questions we ask ourselves on a daily basis and we step into being more uncomfortable, is where we will find more joy and more abundance in our lives.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think there are many reasons for wealth inequality, and some of those reasons are systemic. But we wouldn't be doing any justice and any good to anyone if we also didn't acknowledge and be honest that some of it is also because there are some people that take action and go after what they want, and there are other people that sit around and they wait and they don't do anything. And a really good example of this is I had a while back on my YouTube channel, I had a frugality challenge where I basically put it out there that, hey, let's try to save as much money as we can in the next couple of months. So like cutting back on eating out and going to the movies. And I did it so anyone could win. It wasn't based on how much you save, because if you make $10 million a year, you can save $9 million and you'd win.
Right.
I wanted to make it so anyone could win. So it was a random draw of whoever entered the challenge. According to my analytics between YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, around 10,000 people saw that I was doing a challenge. They were aware that I was doing some sort of challenge. Out of 10,000 people, a grand total of 3 people entered the frugality challenge.
Wow.
So I had them all be winners. I was like, and I wanted to have 10 winners actually. I wanted to have one person win $1,000 and then 9 people win $100 each or something like that. But only 3 people entered. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give $1,000 to the overall winner who was randomly selected, and I'll give $500 to the other 2. And it's like, man, some people just go for it, and other people just don't do anything. So
Really?
yeah,
It's
wild.
crazy, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. Well,
Yeah.
this has been a wonderful conversation. I've learned a lot from you. It's really good to hear your story. I think it's quite appealing to people where they hear, you came from very humble beginnings, probably worse off than a lot of folks who aren't doing as well as you today. And maybe they just needed this video as motivation to get there. But before we end it, before we leave, do you have any sort of any last tidbit of advice or information you would like to leave people with?
Yeah. I think like going into winter, and it being so cold in Washington, I'm sure there's a lot of viewers nationwide, but still, for the most part, our nation's pretty chilly in the winter and pretty gray. And I think it's really important to practice gratitude for everybody. And I think that's one thing as a nation we lack, is really stepping into reflecting on where you are right now, and just being grateful. Like right now, we're having this incredible conversation. We're alive, we're healthy, we're doing so well, but it's not just about wealth. There's so much to be grateful for, and at this very moment. And I think if we can take a step back and reflect, even on a daily basis, about where we are and the incredible experiences and journey that we've had over the last 29 years. If we can all do that as human beings, I think we'll be so much better off and so much appreciative. And so I hope that more and more people practice this, because it really will help you with your health, and just enjoyment in life. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that guys like us need to remember, is that it's not all about it's not all about the business. It's not all about gaining wealth. It's about appreciating everything that's around you, stopping to enjoy life, spending time with friends and family. So yeah, you hit it right there, man. Well, thank you again for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. By the way, do you have any social media that you want folks to, like, if people want to follow you, is there anywhere for them to go do that, whether it's Instagram or Twitter? Are you on that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So it's just my name. My personal Instagram is just Ludomir_Wanot. It's spelled LUDOMIR_WANOT. And then you can follow our business. It's called Evergreen Housing Network, and that's on Instagram as well. So if you want to follow our journey, we're going to be providing a lot of tips, a lot of helpful guidance on there as well. If you're stepping into real estate, we're looking forward to helping you out in Washington.
Awesome, man. Well, I will, when this video is uploaded, I will post those links in the description of the video so people can easily find you. And yeah, thanks again for your time today.
Thank you so much, Todd.
All right, man. Peace.